In this video, we are going to be talking about monthly and seasonal temperature swings in New York City. So first, we have to start with the monthly temperature swings. So the month with the largest temperature swing might actually surprise you. So we're just going to start with the month. So the highest temperature ever recorded in January since official NWS observations began back in 1869 was 72 degrees Fahrenheit. The coldest temperature was -6 degrees Fahrenheit. This gives January a temperature spread of 78 degrees. In February, the highest temperature ever recorded during that month was 78 degrees, and it was actually quite recent. In fact, the most recent record high monthly temperature to be set in New York City was set on this February day in 2018. And the coldest temperature was -15 degrees. That is a whopping 93 degree spread. In March, the coldest temperature we ever saw was just in the 4th year of official weather observations for New York City. We saw a temperature of 3 degrees. And, you know, what I wanted to gauge from that is that, the high that day was also 10 degrees. Which meant that even though, yes, we like to think of that very cold Christmas Eve as firmly being in winter, I'm going to be honest, real winter weather hasn't started yet. And we can see those temperatures in the spring. You'll also see in a second. We can see them at the very end of autumn. But March's highest temperature was 86 degrees, which is an 83 degree spread. Okay, so in April, the coldest temperature ever recorded was 12 degrees. That was by far the coldest temperature ever recorded in April. The second coldest temperature was high on multiple days at 20 degrees. Although the high that day was 36 degrees, which was not enough to even set the daily record for April 1st. It was brutal. That was on an Easter, and the hottest temperature in April also occurred on Easter, and that was 96 degrees, an 84 degree spread. May saw a minimum temperature of 32 degrees and a maximum of 99 degrees for a 67 degree spread. While May might have its stereotypes of being a temperature month with wild temperature swings, you're going to find out in a second that those are mostly reserved for the colder months of the year. It's a little bit weird reasoning behind them. In June, the coldest temperature ever in that month was 44 degrees. The maximum was 101 degrees. That is only a 57 degree spread. In July, the coldest temperature ever in that month was 52 degrees, and the warmest was 106. In August, it was 50 and 104, meaning that they both only have 54 degree spreads within the month. September, while people might think that the temperature in September is more constrained than in June, September got to 102 degrees Fahrenheit, but it also hit as low as 39 degrees Fahrenheit during the month. That is actually a 63 degree spread, which is a lot bigger than June's spread. October has a high of 94 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 28 degrees Fahrenheit, which is I don't actually know the math behind this one. 66 degree spread. And November has a high of 84 degrees and a low of 5. If not for that day, though, I think the coldest temperature in November ever would be 11 to 12 degrees. The high that day was 14. So again, that cold Christmas Eve could occur in fall, although that was again in New York City's 7th year of weather recording. 7th official year of weather recording. And like the April snap, it was also significantly colder than any other day in November history, as we talked about. So the high of 84 and the low of 5 make it a 79 degree spread. December spread with a high of 75 and a low of -13 is 88 degrees. 88 degree spread. So February wins, and then December, and then January. November does have a larger spread than January. Also, March has a larger spread than November and January. So January is a bit more confined, but you can see February and December have the largest spreads. They're all concentrated in the colder months, whereas the warmer months tend to have less of a spread. So there's two things I want to discuss here. Why is this happening, and how does this affect seasonality? And there's a reason why seasonality is not going to quite be the results that you expect. So, first, winter is a lot more prone to extreme temperature swings. They can happen in the spring and fall, but normally when they happen, they're actually closer to winter than you would think. Like, think March, maybe April have those big temperature swings, and then they really don't get flaring again until, like, November, maybe October. Once you're in May, the swings aren't that much there by that point, and you can't have those wild temperature swings in the summer. One reason could be the humidity difference. It's a lot, once you have that humidity, temperatures cannot drop below that point. But also, humid air is harder to heat than just pure dry air. So, like, for example, in Florida, it frequently feels like triple digits, but it's quite hard for them to hit actual air temperatures of triple digits because humid air is harder to heat. That being said, when they can hit triple digits air temperature, it's absolute hell, as heat indexes are usually above 115 degrees at that point. But again, humid air, not as easy to heat as just regular dry air. So humidity keeps actual air temperature down, but it'll exaggerate the feeling of it. And, another thing that has to be realized about all of this is the fact that in the summer, it's just like there's a lot less stuff to be able to hold on the temperature, because what you have to keep in mind is that in the winter, sun does not really do that much to heat everything, and frontal passages have a lot more power. That doesn't exactly work like that in winter, however. In winter, we definitely see more of the stuff where, in winter we definitely see it where fronts have a lot greater of an impact and all that. I mean, New York City's largest temperature drop in a single day from 58 to 8 happened on December 23rd. Although what we have to understand is that I think March 29th or something, also if you had the second largest drop, and I think that was from 86 down to I think in the upper 30s. So we can see temperatures slash like that in the spring, but they always just have that little bit more extremity on their side in the winter. Plus, also, here's the other thing. In the spring, in order to get those extreme temperature swings, they have to start later on. In the winter, it could be in the 60s in the middle of the night. And then it could also be, in single digits in the afternoon. Although that's definitely become a lot rarer thanks to climate change. So, in the spring, it can almost never be in the 80s in the middle of the night. It's always in the 80s in the afternoon, and then temperatures get slashed down. But by that point, it becomes harder for the slashing effect to really take its grip on temperatures. So there's that stuff involved too. But seasonality is something that you also have to understand kind of changes everything. Here's the thing. With seasonality, what you have to understand is the fact that, you have to understand that in the winter, you only have that extreme swings to carry it forward, and that's it. The warmest and coldest temperatures of the winter were both set in February. The 78-degree temperature on February 20th, 2018, or maybe it was the 21st, and then a negative 15-degree temperature on February 9th, 1934. That's all you have, though. That's all that you have. Fun fact, just on a side note, that in 1942 and 1943, there were 2 days with a low with a high of only 8 degrees Fahrenheit, December 20th, 1942, and February 8th, 1943. February 15th, 1943. December 20th had a low of -4. February 15th had a low of -2. Since then, despite being such cold days in the winter, we've never seen a day that cold ever again. It's never gone below -2. The high's never been below 9 degrees. But anyway, time to get back on topic. So, what you have to understand about the spring and the fall is that you also have just general changing temperatures throughout the year, which does make their spreads larger. So in winter, it's a 93-degree spread. In spring, the coldest it ever got was 3 degrees on March 5th, 1872. The warmest it ever got during spring was 99 degrees on May 19th, and some year dating back to the early 1960s. That's a 96-degree spread, which you might notice is bigger than winter spread. But that makes sense considering the glissando of temperatures throughout. Average high temperatures in winter in New York City really range between 48 and 39 degrees for the entire season, while average low temperatures hover usually between 34 and 27 degrees. Meanwhile, in the spring, they go from around 46-degree highs and 30-degree lows at the very beginning, and they usually end with highs of around 72 and lows of about 58 or something like that. So it's a lot easier to see these extremes as you just glissando through the months. Fall too, the highest temperature ever recorded in fall was 102 degrees on September 2nd, 1953. Part of New York City's longest heat wave on record that began on August 24th and did not lift. It did not lift until September 4th. As a matter of fact, an all-time high temperature of 107 was set in Elmira, New York that day, higher than any temperature ever in New York City. But the coldest temperature in fall was on November 30th, 1875. By far the coldest day of fall, the low temperature was 5 degrees. That's a 97-degree spread, but again, with those winter-like and summer-like intrusions, and also keep in mind, the temperature usually starts off average high of 80, average low of about 65. And then November ends usually with an average high of around 48 and an average low of 34. That's just how fall goes. Summer, obviously, though, is a smaller spread. You know, and that's what makes sense. As we see the coldest temperature in summer ever was 44 degrees, the highest was 106 degrees. That is only, a meager 62 degrees spread for the entire season. Also, I want you to understand, a lot of what I was saying, not possible in climate change. And I do have to talk about this. So, as far as things go, the last time I saw a temperature over 100 was in July 2012, while in February 2016, we did see a temperature get below 0 degrees. So on one side, it sounds good. It sounds good. But on the other hand, there's a dark understory behind that. And one that you really, really just have to understand. Before I got to sub-zero in February 2016, the last time it happened was in January of 1994. Also, the last time we had a high in a single digit, so below 10 degrees, was in January of 1985. Meanwhile, when was the last time we had a low in the 80s in New York City? Literally 3 summers ago in July of 2019, if not even more recently than that. And we've gotten close. Also, let's look at it, by the individual months, because cold snaps are actually becoming more intense due to climate change when they occur in the winter. Like, in March, the coldest temperature that I can remember occurring recently was 12 degrees. To be fair, it did hit 9 degrees on February 28, 2014. One single day prevented this wave of climate change denialism. And, I think November recently did hit 15 degrees in 2018. So we're going to see a lot of cherry picking on that. It set monthly records in several parts of upstate, and it even set monthly records, in Bridgeport. Because it was just that cold. And the records don't go back to 1875. It didn't even set a daily record in New York City, by the way. But what you have to understand is also, look at how infrequently we've been setting these cold weather records. They're all coldest daily high records. And I think the last time we even saw that occur, 28th of March, 2022. Meanwhile, the last time we said, a record high is a flat record high occurred a few days ago. Before that, we also set one on the 6th of November. And monthly records were established in Bridgeport, too. Which actually means that the coldest and highest temperature in Bridgeport for November was actually set, like, in the past 5 years. I think it's cool. But, that's another thing that you have to understand. I mean, the coldest it got in a recent April, I believe, was 26 degrees. May recently, actually, this was when JFK and LaGuardia set their coldest night temperatures. May did recently hit 34. I mean, the last time that June got into the 40s was in 2000. It has never gotten into the 40s in June since 2000 in New York. Now, I do want to say some things about June. May 31st, 2021 got very close. It was in the 40s on the last day of spring. But it was still in spring. June 2nd, 2015 had a high of 55 and a low of 50. But that 55, 50, the high didn't even set a daily record. The high on June 1st of 58 did set a daily record. And it was all due to bad luck. And it was one of the coldest highs ever in June. But the low didn't hit 50. I actually heard that Boston set monthly cold records highs on June 1st and 2nd at 49 degrees. July. The last time it got into the 50s during the month was in 2021. Before that, 2009. In August, the last time it got into the 50s, 2013. And, in September, it's just, I don't know how to put it really, but, like, October 2022 was the coldest October since 2009, and, like, the first October, 7 hours, temperature below, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, but it's starting to get concerning. Climate change, big problem. And we're really seeing that these months are starting to lose their chills that they're known for, which I think is a problem. But I'm going to end this depressingly morbid video on this note.